Ransford and I'm here at Toronto Zoo. Our mission is to connect people, animals and conservation science to fight extinction. And today, we are very excited to share with you our grouse program. So grouse is a very important thing. Well, first of all, I'd like to mention this one. We're absolutely stoked that for everybody to giving so much help to Toronto Zoo over the last couple of weeks. It couldn't have been better, and we thank you very, very much, everybody, for that. Well, grouse, at Toronto Zoo, we're trying to feed animals as natural as possible, like they eat in the wild. And guess what? Just to give you an example, gorillas, they are really vegetarians. They don't eat meat. And guess what? When the first time people put gorillas in zoos, they were actually feeding them steak. And obviously they ate that, but it's not the right thing for them to feed. So now we're going more and more to feed less soluble carbohydrates, less biscuits, and less fruit, and more grouse. And that has proven over the last 10 years at Toronto Zoo to really improve the animals' welfare. And they just really like eating grouse. And what we're going to do here is that we put out stuff out in the exhibit, and it is right behind her here, and we will have the animals come in and they will choose certain types of grouse. So you can actually see what they choose, and hopefully they don't go for the grouse, maybe they'll go for something else, I'm not really sure. But we hope that it's going to be very interesting for you guys to watch. Just to give you a little bit of introduction, here is red osier dogwood, the red stuff. I just cut that this morning out of the field. In the winter time, we use ficus types, obviously. We use banana leaves, and we also use, when we can, we use forsythia, which is really an ornamental plant from gardens. And here's our mainstay, that is willow. Willow, the leaves are just coming out. So they, normally we have far bigger leaves, and they really like to eat the leaves. But the big thing over here that we never realized when we started with this product is that all the animals at Toronto Zoo who eat grouse love to eat bark. And we never realized that. And if you think about that, when you have trees the whole year round, there is bark to eat. Leaves fall off, even in dry periods or in winters they fall off. So there's no leaves, or only dried leaves if they can still find them. So the nutrition of bark is really important. We've done a lot of work, and you can see some poles we give to all kinds of goat species, to giraffe, we give it to beaver, and this is what the beaver does with those poles. Obviously beaver is very capable, but our giraffe does this also, and our gorillas do this as well. However, we give them smaller sticks because we're afraid that they hit each other over the head with it. We have to be a bit careful, right? So grouse is really an animal welfare feed. It's a slow food, not a fast food. And you will see when they start eating it that they're nibbling in it and that they're just really enjoying it. To be honest, still, I tried it many times, but it doesn't do anything for me. But the gorillas, and also most animals, we have about 35 species in Toronto Zoo who regularly eat grouse. Last year we collected over 13,000 kilos of grouse. That is 3 truckloads every week, times about 200 days. That's close to 600 truckloads of grouse we brought into the zoo. Obviously we have community partners helping us with this. We have schools, we have green teams from all kinds of organizations helping us with this, which is fantastic, and we're really keen to have even more help with this. Now, we're very successful with grouse. We have a farm with about 10,000 trees, and the farm is now going to be changed to another farm where we will be growing 30,000 trees and bushes just for grouse for the Toronto Zoo animals. So that's absolutely massive. Then we have the silage, like in the winter, we feed silage, and this is silage. So in the winter, the ensile browse, and this is silage. It looks a bit brown and awful, but it smells delicious. It smells fruity, and animals love it. We have it in the enclosure, so animals can actually go and look for it. So, do you want to let him go in?
Sure.
So we're going to let him in now. Ali, our keeper, is giving the sign, and then you will see the animals coming in and going for the browse. Hopefully they're coming soon. So we're waiting for, they're coming in. They're slowly. You say who's who.
Okay, this is Josephine coming out, the gray lady. She's 49 years old. She's our oldest gorilla. And over there with her was her daughter Johari. And Johari's 19 this year. And so because we're standing up above them on the keeper talk area, they're kind of wondering what's going on. So but they'll be picking up. Oh, here comes Nika. And Big Daddy Charles is right there, our silverback. And of course, Ngozi and baby Charlie.
So I think Johari is going for the willow first, but her mother goes for banana leaves. Do you see that? The mother goes for banana leaves straight away. It's quite interesting to see. So I hope that everybody understands that browse is actually trees. You know, most people think browse is actually something which is on the computer, but no, it is originally, browsing is originally eating little bits. See there in the far, they're eating the forsythia, the yellow one. So obviously she likes that. So this gives us so much information of what those animals really like to eat. And you can see that they're quite happy eating and trying things out. So this is typically slow food, and this is so good for these animals, but it's also good for your children, for human children, to eat slowly, to take time to sit together and to eat together. It's all about welfare, and in this case, obviously, animal welfare. So obviously we feed a lot of browse to the giraffe. A giraffe gets at the moment about 20 kilos every day. We have, beaver who gets those big logs. They love to chew them down. I'm sure you visitors to the zoo have seen this happening. Meanwhile, while we were doing this browse work, we had 3 master students who did their master thesis. And one of them helped us develop the silage like I just showed, the brown apple silage which we feed in the winter. And silage is an acidified product. It acidifies naturally with lactic acid bacillus. It's the same process as happens in your yogurt or in kimchi or in sauerkraut. So the animals really like that because in the winter, obviously we do not have this really lush green material. So you can see now that
Nika's eating the silage.
Nika is eating the silage, yeah. So the research we did, and we did it specifically for gorillas, actually we got quite strong indications that when you feed animal browse, that they're better protected against heart disease. And a large amount of animals, specifically gorillas, a large amount of gorillas in zoos dies of cardiovascular disease. So we're really keen to give this to the animals because we think it improves their health and keeps them well. The other research we did was with salicylic acid. Willow contains an aspirin type of compound. It's called salicylic acid. And lots of people were afraid to get too much of that. So we did trials and we figured it out that really at the amount we're feeding this to our giraffe, in particular because they eat a lot of it, is no problem whatsoever. So we learned a lot of these things. The other thing is what I like to say is that we have cooperation, very good cooperation with the Rouge Park, and now recently we got a lease from them for almost 20 acres for a new browse farm. And in that new browse farm, we're going to plant, we think, about 30,000 trees and bushes. And that's only for Toronto Zoo. And obviously, you know, we want our community partners to help us. We want our community partners to look at that.
Johari.
Johari. She's excited about browse,
Yep,
Ali? She's
definitely.
very excited about
she
browse.
loves browse.
They're very excited about browse. So, you know, just to tell a little bit about sustainability, in the winter season in particular, we get a lot of produce from Florida or from California. And to be honest, you know, we'd like to be a bit more self-sustainable. And the browse is a phenomenal thing for that, because we can preserve it. We know how to do it. We can do it efficiently. So having this larger farm is really something for the future for Toronto Zoo. So, you know, you see the
Baby Charlie.
little Charlie is eating the willow. You see, it's so important that those little kids learn to eat at an early age, learn to nibble and learn to use all those different things. Like her mother now is eating the forsythia. You know, to be honest, I had no idea they like that so much, but they do, you know? Yeah, so she's taking some and put her back. So obviously, as far as I can see, Ali, I think those gorillas are very, very happy because they're turning their backs to us,
Yep.
and they're just busy eating from kind of let me eat now, right?
Yep. They're doing what they do best.
Excellent, excellent. So we're very excited at Toronto Zoo. We have teams going out in the summer, 3 times a week, getting all this browse. We deliver, just the delivery alone takes at least 1 to 1.5 hours every day we deliver. So it's a very time-consuming project. We also do pretty well internationally. We get a lot of questions from other zoos. Other zoos are copying what we do in terms of how we approach this, how we do plantations, and how we make silage, particularly silage. So we build a machine in this zoo which is a press, and that presses the material in barrels. It makes it anaerobic, and anaerobic means there's no oxygen. And then this preservation process starts. It acidifies it like yogurt, and it stays for a very, very long time and stays very, very well. So we, at the moment, our equipment is already copied in several zoos. That's Denver Zoo. They're making one in another zoo down south. They're looking at the machine in England. It's going all over the world. It's quite remarkable. See, and obviously you see the little one going for browse, right?
Yeah. Charlie hoping her Auntie Jo there will share her browse, but Josephine does not like to share browse. So she's trying to sort of keep Charlie busy and save her browse. And especially the tropical browse comes from within the pavilions, which is great. Our gardeners will trim a lot of the trees in the buildings and plants, and so all the different departments contribute to it, and so the gorillas are able to enjoy African species specifically and tropical species of browse. So what Yap talks about is a lot of the native stuff that we can use here in our local, in our native habitat, but with our big pavilions, we're able to provide our gorillas with fresh tropical browse, very similar to what they would be getting in Africa. So again, keeping it as natural as possible. And those leafy branches, later in the end of the day, there will be hardly any evidence left in that exhibit that it was in there, because they really utilize all parts of it and thoroughly enjoy it, definitely, when they can.
Some interesting nutrition facts about browse is that it won't make the animals fat. So if you eat browse, you won't get fat, because the energy, the calories is very low, and for some reason it's very, very appetizing to them. As again, I said it, I tried it several times, but really it doesn't work for me. But obviously I'm not a gorilla, or I'm not a giraffe, and we have all this diversity of species here at Toronto Zoo, where we find that yes, they are quite different from us, and they eat different and they do different. So it's really important to pay attention to this, because what we also see is that the welfare of the gorillas in particular is very, very much improved. When we started feeding browse, we had some problem that food was regurgitated, specifically fast food like biscuits or fresh fruit, and we stopped that and we introduced browse, and we managed to turn it around, and now the animals are really, really happy, and regurgitation is very, very rare or basically non-existent at the moment with this program. So when it comes to animal welfare, it's a fantastic program, and we should do more and more of this when we can.
And with herbivores like gorillas and other herbivores, their natural inclination is to eat, because in the wild, to sustain themselves, they need to eat and eat and eat and eat. And so for our gorillas in particular, that's what we try to do, is provide them with as low calories possible, because they're eating so much volume and so much browse. And so it's important for us to provide that natural behavioral enrichment. And the best thing we can do is when we have browse days, like big browse days like this, that is the best enrichment we can give our gorillas, because they have a need to just be eating all the time. And so we want to be able to satisfy that need by giving them those items that will contribute to that. Before we had such a extensive browse program, they got browse just a little bit here and there, and we did have a few behavioral issues, like Yep said, with regurgitation, because those were higher calorie foods that we were providing them, and so they didn't go as far as this does, as far as their occupation and their activity level. So this really helps satisfy all those needs natural needs that they have.
Yeah, fantastic. I wish I could be among them and eat browse with them, because it looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. So that's basically our main browse program at Toronto Zoo. Again, I think we're just really, really pleased that we can tell this to our public and let them explain. And if there are any questions, we would love to answer some of those. Ali will particularly do the keeper questions, and if it becomes a bit on the nutritional side, I will try to jump in and try to answer where possible.
A lot of compliments so far.
Compliments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, one question. Do you publish?
Yes, we publish. To be honest, I have to be very honest here. We're not very good at publishing, but we write small articles, and there's still some articles need to be published. But we do a lot of presentations. So we present almost yearly on very large zoo conferences, which is attended by lots of veterinarians, and I'm talking about 800, 900 nutritionists and veterinarians, and we produce those papers with PowerPoint presentations, and that's why those other zoos try to take this and learn this from us.
Another question here. How much time do you spend planning their diets? Is it weekly, monthly?
Well, we do that together, and I have some excellent staff. Sarah Gurley is doing a lot of that now, and obviously, it takes a lot of time to plan those diets very well, because we don't know exactly what their nutrient requirements are. We have some idea, but we don't know exactly. So it's very time-consuming job. You have to be basically on your own and have a very good background information. So we do a lot of food analysis. We analyze browse a lot. We analyze basically everything we feed, and from that we do diet evaluations, and then we can actually find out whether they're getting their nutrients, what they're supposed to get as in the wild. So we read a lot of scientific articles. We try to find out more about seasonality. There's feeding is a certain type of the season is very different than in other types of the seasons. So we're very, very alert on that. Interesting, you know, what I forgot to mention is that we feed also a lot of browse to insects. We have a lot of insects at Toronto Zoo who, like the katydids, you might have seen the Lydia attar, the lubbers, you know, the Maclay spectres. We feed eucalyptus browse or bramble browse. And you know, at the moment, eucalyptus browse is imported, obviously, from Florida. So that's why we need lots of money to buy all this stuff and feed those animals what they're supposed to eat. Insects is a very interesting thing, because if you do not feed the browse, the insects will die. And the insects also need the browse because it is a physical entity, so they can actually sit on their food. And that's a bit different from those large primates, because the insects sit on their food and they eat from there. They need those branches to walk over, to sit on and to eat. Otherwise, if you don't provide that, they will die. So the insects is definitely an important factor at Toronto Zoo to provide browse to. But you know, other ones are, you know, the new farm where we're going to have about 30,000 trees. We're going to be able to provide whole trees, and we're kind of hoping in the new orangutan exhibits in the future that we can provide every week 4 or 5 of whole trees, and for the orangutans just to break them down and to demolish them, eat them, and do whatever they want with them. So that's the idea.
There's a few questions asking if you take donations from the public of browse.
Yeah, we do officially take donations, and we have our campaign going on. It started, I think, April 16. Yes, we're very, very keen. You know, obviously, we are like everybody else. Also, Toronto Zoo is in a dire situation when it comes to income. We do not have people coming through the gate. We do not have any money coming in from parking or from sales from our shops. So yes, we do need donations, and wherever you're able to donate, whatever you can able to donate, we'll be very, very thankful for that, and specifically the animals will be very, very thankful for it.
And there's a few questions about the gorillas, so their ages. So all of our gorillas have been born in zoos, except for Josephine and Charles. They were orphans from the wild. Their parents likely were killed because of the bushmeat trade. So their ages are estimated. Josephine is estimated to be 49 years old this year. She is the lady up there near the purple ball. And Charles is down here. His estimated age is 48. And they've been at the zoo since they were infants. So they've lived here their whole lives. The other gorilla, as you can see, Ngozi sorted through those tree roots. She came from Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle. And her little baby Charlie was born here, of course. And Nika and Jahari were also born here at the zoo. Charlie will be 2 years old this coming June. Time flies pretty fast. So hopefully we will have a bit of a birthday celebration for her at that time, but we're not sure. Another question about how much do they sleep? Well, once they're done eating, it requires a lot of digestive time, so it's very high in fiber, the food that they eat on a regular basis. So it's kind of after you eat a big meal, you feel really, really full, and sometimes you just want to go down and have a nap. And so that's what they usually do, is they'll go and have a nap once they've done eating, and basically get their digestive system moving and digest all that really high fibrous material that they've just eaten. And so they'll sleep for an hour or two maybe, and then once that food sort of moves through their bellies, then they'll sort of get up and start looking for more food. If they were in the wild, they would start to get up and move on and forage for more. At our zoo, we do multiple feeds throughout the day, so every few hours or so, we're shifting the gorillas from one habitat to another, and every time they shift, there's always food waiting there for them. So they happily go when it is time. Their stomachs tell them it's time to move to a new area, and so we try to mimic that as much as possible here as well by doing that. So and depending on the time of year, so for example, in the wintertime, our day is condensed, the sun, and so we are feeding them more often, and therefore they will sleep more at night. So they tend to go to sleep when the sun goes down, and they'll usually sleep mostly through the night, get up here and there very briefly, but then get up when we get here in the morning. In the summer months, when the days are longer, we kind of space out their feeds throughout the day, and so they will nap in between. And then because they're going to bed later, because the sun is going down later in the day. So their sleep is sort of with the sun, and we try to help that along. Typically, they live to be in the wild, sort of early to mid 30s. They have a lot of problems that they have to deal with in the wild, deforestation, as well as poaching, and of course, as we all know, what's happening right now is diseases. Coronavirus has caused a problem for a lot of the wild populations right now, but also things like Ebola virus, the gorillas are susceptible to as well. And so they typically, their number one cause of death though is poaching. Gorillas are killed by people for meat illegally, and unfortunately that is on the rise as well during this pandemic that's happening. But so in the wild, they tend to not really live typically old age the way, say, a gorilla like Josephine or Charles, who has had a really stress-free life. They're given the best food possible, the best medical attention possible, and so they have lived a very happy, healthy life here. And so they are almost 50 years old, and that is still not even typical. Usually in zoos they live to sort of early 40s, so they're about 10 years past their average zoo life expectancy even, and they will they could live into their 60s because of all these changes that Jaap was talking about, diet changes and providing them with more natural foods. They're a lot healthier, and so they're living a lot longer in zoos. There's a few that are in their 60s at some other zoos in North America and in Europe. So the more we learn and the more we do these studies on nutrition and overall health care, the more they're going to live a lot longer, happier lives. Do I play with them? No, not really, but the gorillas play with each other. Our role as keepers, we do enrichment with them, but we also do behavioral training. But that training is always through a protective barrier where the gorillas are on one side and we're on the other. And that's not because they're going to try to hurt us, but it's because they're so strong that the potential could be there. Even when they play with each other, they get really rough, and other gorillas can handle that rough play, but as humans we would get injured pretty easily, so we don't go in with them at all, but they definitely play with each other, and we definitely interact with them and play with them. Some of them like the shower, the hose, we play with them that way and provide them with lots of things that they can play with by themselves.
Maybe I can just add a little bit to it, is that we wanted to show you the browse mainly because we want to show the public how important we think original food is for life. Food is obviously essential for life, and unfortunately in our current society people take that a little bit for granted. And we think it's really, really important to put lots of effort for food, pay attention to it, eat slow, enjoy, as those gorillas are doing, and also try, to be have a certain degree of sustainability with your food. Don't waste food. Try to be as respectful to food as you possibly can, and at least teach it to your children like that. I think that is some basic understanding for a good society, and that's what we want at Toronto Zoo. Obviously, at Toronto Zoo we're trying to fight extinction of a whole bunch of very endangered animals. We're trying to save animals from losing them. We've been lost over the last 20 years or 30 years. We've lost a lot of animals, and the Toronto Zoo is really important for that. Now, one thing I really happy to say again and again is that I'm absolutely flabbergasted by the response of the donations. I was speechless. I'm spending about $1 million per year on animal food, and you can imagine that the browse program is expensive. So, those donations are really helping us survive, and they're just a lifeline for us. So thank you again for this tremendous response. And one of the biggest things I think came out of here is that the Toronto Zoo now really knows that we have community support, and we've been looking, trying to find that for quite a while, and now the last couple of weeks we know it's there, and we're extremely happy with that. Okay, so we're wrapping up over here, and thank you again for listening to us. I'm Jaap Wensvoort, Manager of Nutrition Science at Toronto Zoo. We try to fight extinction as much as we possibly can, and we're just delighted with all your support and all your help. Thank you very much.